Well, hey, thanks for joining me today, Cameron.
Glad to be here.
Today I'm sitting here with Cameron Richardson, the Director of Technical Affairs and Asphalt Advocacy for the California Construction and Industrial Materials Association.
Yes.
Thanks for joining me, Cameron.
Glad to be here.
I'd like to add to your titles the winner of our one and only giveaway.
I mean, one of one is pretty good.
That's right. You can say that you're at the top.
There's no beating that, honestly.
But today, hey, we're here to talk about Caltrans specification changes.
Yes.
You know, last year the state of California changed the point of acceptance for aggregates in asphalt to post-plant.
That is correct.
And for years it's been at the cold feed or the hot bins, depending on the plant configuration. Mm-hmm. Next year there's a planned addition for adding, allowing the addition of wrap to rubberized asphalt.
That is correct.
Right. And then in the longer term, the move to balanced mix design.
Yes, a very exciting change.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in California. So,
consistently.
Yeah, well, this is really good. It's all a move towards, you know, improving the specifications, improving mix performance and value to the end user.
Yes, performance, I think, is the best way to describe the collection of moves that we are making in California, is looking for long-term performance.
Got it. Got it. So maybe let's start with the first specification change, the post-plant gradation.
Yes.
And so that was implemented in October of 2025. It started to come out in contracts?
October 2024.
October 2024, thank you.
Yes.
So now it's in contracts.
Yes, now it is in all contracts moving forward from that point are designed as post-plant.
So in terms of people who may not be from California or maybe haven't seen it yet because they're doing municipal specifications, what does it mean to be post-plant gradation?
So the post-plant gradation is an evaluation of material using completed hot mix asphalt. So what you would do is you would take your sample of completed hot mix asphalt from either the truck or the field laydown. You take that sample back to a lab, and either through the ignition oven or chemical extraction, you create you procure a sample of the aggregate structure from the hot mix asphalt. It's gone through the entire process of the plant, mixing, heating up, mixing, and then going into the truck to head out to the project. Once you get that sample back, you're using that gradation to evaluate the adherence to the current specifications for gradation.
I see, I see. So when you and I first met, you were a quality control manager for a producer here in California.
Yes, that's it.
And so how would your job be different today than it was when we met a few years ago?
At least, yeah. Well, I think there's a couple different ways that we would, that I would look at changing the way we went about our business. I think there's a couple different elements of how business was done. We'll actually, you know, make a line of demarcation to say would be pre-plant, now is post-plant. So before we would take a heavier look at our cold feeds, and we put together our mix design, and we could go and really be somewhat predictable because we didn't have to account for a lot of the potential changes. Mm-hmm. Now, with the post-plant, we need to be significantly more diligent about the consistency, both at the front end, our input materials,
yes,
our process, and now the way that we are running our plant. You know, the mixing tips, all of those things, the flights in the drum are going to have an effect on how your post-plant gradation, the consistency of that. And so that combined with statistical pay factor, which is a measure of consistency for these projects, it's going to be very important and imperative to maintain communication. You're going to need to up your communication skills with quality control, operations, and your aggregate inputs coming into the plant.
I see. Now, in the past, there was this form, this 3513.
Yes.
Where you could say, okay, well, here's my mix design. Here's what the cold feed, here's what the gradation would be based on cold feeds and some, we'll say, calibrated wrap.
Yes.
And then you would say, okay, but I know once I run my plant, it's going to be more like this.
Yes.
And that kind of gave you a little bit of the ability to adjust to what was coming out of the plant. And then I would also imagine that with the addition of new volumetric requirements, some BMD tests, balanced mix design tests, knowing the gradation after the plant is really imperative for doing quality control.
Yes.
So it kind of all goes together.
It does.
It may feel different and maybe new, but it's really kind of what you should be doing to be successful in a balanced mix design world.
That is very well put. And I will say from my conversations with a lot of the producers in the state of California, we have been doing post-plant evaluations, but that wasn't pay criteria. That was more investigative. That was more forensic understanding of what your mix was doing. If your gradation was good pre-plant, but your volumetrics looked kind of funny and things weren't performing the way you felt they should or did at the mix design, you would do some post-plant evaluations and kind of take that into consideration to say, hey, maybe material's breaking down a little bit to where our voids are closing up, or we're not getting exactly what we think. To your point, the calibrated wrap may not be as calibrated as we thought.
Yeah.
And so managing those input points, to your point, becomes significantly more important to making good mix.
Got it. So are you seeing that people are completely not doing hot bin gradations and cold feed gradations, or are they using that as part of a more complete quality control process?
I would say, because it's at this point in my career, it's anecdotally, I'm not as much in the plants. So having conversations with a lot of our producers, their structure has changed. It is a complete quality control. They want to know, like, hey, are my bins still acting the way I need them to act, my bins or my cold feeds? And then you start matching up the post-plant gradation and making adjustments significantly more proactively between your bin gradations or your cold feed gradations and your dust input. All have a huge effect on what your final product is. And I think to add to that, it's really put an eye on aggregate supply. Your source, your quarry that you're getting your aggregates from, has become infinitely more important with post-plant gradation than it was with pre-plant.
I see. So Cameron, Caltrans specifications are the foundation of a lot of city and county specifications, as well as even private works projects. You know, what do those owners need to know about post-plant gradation and their projects?
Well, I think it's going to be multi-layered, because the mixes for most producers aren't going to change too much. You know, whether you're using, because like as you said, Caltrans specs have ripple effects across the state. If you're not using your own spec for city and county governments or private work like you do in SoCal, which they have their own spec called the Green Book, and in Northern California you also have a Caltrans, we'll call it a Caltrans Light spec through CCPIC, which is the City and County Pavement Improvement Center. They put out a spec a couple years ago to help cities and counties who don't necessarily need the level of structure that a Caltrans mix going, because they don't have highway roads. They don't have that same ESOL level to take account for on local city residential roads. So they should know that, one, their producers' mixes are likely to change a bit because you are being evaluated through a different lens, and understanding what the true final product that you're giving to Caltrans from a gradation standpoint may be different than what you originally thought, evaluating it through a pre-plant lens, maybe a little bit different. And so there will be some tweaks to mixes, and I think when you see your submittal documents, the verbiage on there is going to change, and you need to be those evaluating need to be aware of what type of mix they're asking for now, because the transition, once it's complete, with the producers, I expect all of their mixes to be post-plant. And so as a local city government, you should make sure that your quality assurance lab or whatever your quality assurance program is prepared to evaluate those mixes in the same light as the producers are evaluating them, to where when you're having conversations about the performance or lack thereof, you can be talking on the same playing field.
Yeah, and if the producers are producing to the Caltrans post plant, and you have some trailing specifications that are asking for the same mix to be evaluated pre-plant, there's some risk there.
There's definitely some risk. When you're switching back and forth between styles of mixes that may be fundamentally the same. If you're talking a basic 3/4 HMA evaluated through a pre-plant lens versus a post-plant lens, those plant dynamics may change slightly, and therefore your mix may look a little bit different or perform a little bit different than it has previously.
Yeah, especially if the design was designed to be evaluated per post-plant.
Yes.
So there's just making sure you're consistent from design through to production in the specification is probably very important.
It's going to be very important. I think the ancillary benefit of this is it provides another opportunity for industry and governments to talk and understand really what's going on. And I think, across the board, across the state, our producers are very skilled, and I'd say expert level of what they do. And so when you can communicate that to the engineers and city planners, it helps build a better relationship.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. If we could, what about your members, or the CalCIMA members? What resources do you have available to them to help them sort of through these transitions?
Yeah, so we have quite a few. Hi, I'm one of them. As the technical director, I am involved in these conversations daily. I am essentially the Caltrans liaison for our our CalCIMA members through the PMPC, which is the Pavement Materials Partnering Committee. This is a committee established quite a few years ago. It's the evolution of the Rock Products Committee that existed pre-2010. It has turned into the Pavement Materials Partnering Committee. And so I am at the asphalt subtask group level. I'm the industry chair. And so I am able to communicate what our industry members are seeing, and therefore that's both to Caltrans and from Caltrans to industry, to kind of help them see what Caltrans is needing, as well as what industry needs from Caltrans to make these changes successful. There are consistent conversations between both channels to make sure that this post-plant gradation is a success. Because I think both industry and Caltrans have the same goal, but they have to look at it through a different lens on producing quality projects, safe projects that perform for the long term for the public.
Makes sense. And you have multiple opportunities for your members to interact. You have your technical conference or education conference coming up.
Yes.
You have technical conferences. You also have technical committees.
Yes. So we also have our asphalt technical committee, which we have a industry chair that rotates periodically. So we get different voices in the room. That is a members only, a CalCIMA members only committee. It's open to both our producer members and our associate members, because our associate members are sometimes past producer members, or they have a different perspective, and they are much like LASTRADA is. They're around the country, and they can provide a new perspective on stuff that we're doing and provide great input to help make California's specs better in the long run. As well as on our calcima.org, our website, we have resources there to understand the new specs. We release our newsletter. As things get released, we continually try to inform our newsletter members, our reading newsletter members, as well as our industry members on what's going on, what changes to look out for, and who to contact if you have questions. So if you see an asphalt update, typically I'm the point of contact. If you see other materials, it may be my partner Charlie Ray on concrete and aggregate matters specifically. He's typically the point of contact, and so that way we have an entire team out there to help this transition. And I want to be clear that it's still a transition. While these specs were released in October 2024, we're still going through transition, trying to make sure things are being implemented and specified correctly to where we don't stub our toe on project delivery.
I see. You mentioned nationally. Would you encourage people who are CalCIMA members also to participate in like the National Asphalt Pavement Association? Maybe the Association of Asphalt Paving Technologists, AAPT and NAPA respectively? Because I think post-plant is probably most common. In fact, accepting the material going into the plant is probably uncommon. And Caltrans may be sort of like moving with the rest of the industry.
Yes, I would definitely encourage CalCIMA members as well as government to look into what these national organizations are doing, because I think it definitely helps raise the bar across the board. California has done a lot of innovative things with rubberized asphalt that other states have taken a look at and evaluated. There's a lot of stuff coming out of other states like Utah. They're doing a highly modified asphalt pavement that we're looking at as California. And so I think, yes, diversifying your field of view as it pertains to specifications and opportunities and innovation, I think really benefits the entire country.
I see. Well, very good. So Cameron, you talked about nationally, when people get a chance to look at how things are going nationally, they could learn about how specifications are constructed.
Yes.
You also mentioned that people nationally have learned from California's experience about recycling tires in asphalt. We call it rubberized asphalt in California. Some people call it ground tire rubber.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about ground tire rubber in California. Or rubberized asphalt.
Rubberized asphalt, yes. So there are a lot of benefits to it, and I think in California, learning from the rest of the country and vice versa, not a lot of states have taken up the way that we do rubberized hot mix asphalt, but they have utilized rubber in asphalt.
I see.
So California is one of the biggest recyclers of ground tire rubber through this process, both through mandate through CalRecycle, as well as they have seen the performance benefits in the field. So rubberized asphalt has a litany of benefits, from a resiliency standpoint. We are recycling used tires. Rubberized asphalt is gap graded, and so there are benefits that come with that. Both, it allows us to put more binder in there, and that's where that rubberized, it's a thicker binder. It essentially has a polymer-like effect, so it gets the rebounding and softening effect of being a more flexible pavement. It is more water resistant, as in water will shed off of it through rainwater or groundwater, whatever it may be, as well as it's a quieter ride, and it is less abrasive on passenger tires on your car. So your tires will last longer on rubberized roads.
I see. When I think of rubberized asphalt in California, it's a really good example where the policymakers in Sacramento and the regulators at Caltrans are really in alignment.
Yes.
They've done a great job of coming up with a specification and consuming a waste product and turning it into an engineered product. And there's a change coming.
Yes.
Right? So now, from what I understand, next year in 2026, there'll be the opportunity to include recycled pavement in rubberized asphalt.
Yes, to this date, and I think rubberized asphalt has been in California for roughly 20 or so years. Most of my, it may have just preceded my career, and I've been in the industry almost 21 years now, has been historically what they would call a virgin material. So there's not a wrap element to it. Caltrans and industry got together. They recognized there was a need from a production standpoint as well as a resilience standpoint to say, hey, well, why can't we put wrap in this? We have seen the benefits of wrap in regular dense graded mix. let's evaluate what it looks like in rubberized mix, which has recycled product, in the ground tire. Why not recycled asphalt? So through the Pavement Materials Partner Committee, PMPC, Caltrans and industry came together about 5 years ago or so and started the process of evaluation through research, pilot projects, through our, academic partner, which is UCPRC, which is the University of California, Davis Pavement Research Center. So over the past 5 years, we've done pilot projects, we've done lab studies, and proved that 10% wrap does nothing but boost the performance of rubberized hot mix asphalt material going down on the streets.
Interesting. So did this study identify any points of concern?
No, actually, it was one of the few, I would assume, few research projects that didn't really have any drawbacks. The benefits, to on-street performance as well as supply chain balancing, because as we mentioned, rubberized mixes are open graded, and so if you were to look at the structure, it's typically around about 60% of a 3/8 crushed aggregate, and that's a heavy portion, single-sized portion to pull from any aggregate facility, and so allowing 10% wrap eases some of that burden and really helps aggregate facilities balance out their production. And so that's a huge benefit, as well as from a hot mix plant production standpoint, it is very difficult to switch from non-wrap including mixes to wrap mixes. So it helps smooth out that daily production to where we can be more, we as an industry can be more versatile in the products that we are providing to plants throughout the day and then the season. Therefore, injecting a bit of production consistency or production efficiencies into project delivery.
That makes a lot of sense. So Cameron, there seems to be this underlying move nationally and at California towards balanced mix design.
Yes.
Where is California in that transition?
So California we're on, I'd say, step 1.5 of that process. Nationally, the National Asphalt Pavement Association, NAPA, gave us kind of a good roadmap on how to move towards BMD, and different states are looking at it differently. Everyone has their own process of moving towards a truly performance-driven specification, where it's all about what tests we choose, what performance evaluation tests we choose to make sure that our roads are both flexible and have high stability. And so that's where the term balanced mix design. Yeah. You're trying to find the intersection, the highest point of the most flexible as well as the most retained strength, to where your mixes can last a long time, be it freeze-thaw, hot-cold, as well as heavy load. There's a balance that's going to be engineered and necessary for different roads.
Got it. Because it's fairly easy, relatively, to design for heavy loads, like you see at intersections.
Yes.
Right, where you have the big ruts. That's something you can anticipate and design for.
Correct.
Same thing with roads that crack, like you're driving down a road and every 10 feet there's a crack, or you see the alligator pattern. Mm-hmm. You can design for that as well. But the art and where balanced mix design comes in my understanding, is you're trying to do both.
Yes, and I would say to your point, you mentioned the cracking. I would say, as I understand it, California historically, I'd say 30, 40, 50 years ago, had a rutting problem. And then we moved towards super pave. Now to stiffer, a stronger aggregate structure. We moved towards the more rigid side of asphalt pavement. This balanced mix design should really, pun intended with the term balanced mix design, balance those two dynamics, much as you said, to where you can make a road that is flexible enough to last through the seasons, as well as rigid enough to handle heavy truck traffic.
Yeah, makes sense. So California has had quite a bit of success in its long life pavements.
Yes.
And that is essentially, that is a version of balanced mix design. Right?
It is, yeah.
The tests are mechanistic tests where we're going to measure the actual performance of the or the response, if you will. I'm going to load, I get a response, and then I'm going to put that into a pavement model, and it'll predict performance.
Yes.
And in the BMD or balanced mix design we're talking about index tests.
Yes.
Right. That a test that measures, let's say, the ability to resist cracking, but it's not like the beam fatigue test that measures the strain required to induce cracking.
Yes. So as in terms of where California is at, we're, like I mentioned, we are at the beginning phase of this, and we're working on it. I'm one of the members of the working group within the Pavement Materials Partnering Committee, PMPC, that is looking at how California is going to build the specification, implement the specification, do the research, because California is a very unique state. Because of our size and the different climates, California has a little bit of everything, and that goes in so many, that can be taken so many different ways. We do have a bit of everything.
Yes.
Through climate, through topography, through type of materials. I don't think it's going to be a one-size-fits-all, but we are, and that's why this process is going to take probably about 5 to 7 years, because we do need to take into account your mountainous regions, your more coastal regions. They're going to need something a little bit different than, let's say, the Central Valley. And so you're going to hear a lot of puns about balancing everything out, but that's really what the work group is trying to do in establishing a scope on how we're going to look at this, how we're going to research this, how we're going to evaluate this to make sure that it's successful. Because when it comes down to it, both industry and Caltrans are looking for one thing. That's performance for Californians. Performance for our to make long-lasting roads, and for drivers to be safe on the roads that we drive on. And California does drive just probably the most in the country. We put a lot of road miles out there.
Yeah. So how do CalCIMA members get involved in the specification development and understand how they can participate, how they can prepare, and just be a part of this specification development?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. If you are a CalCIMA producer member, just contact me, and as the working groups come up, while this working group right now is already filled, that doesn't mean in the next 5 years, while this is still going, people may retire or may just not have the capacity to be a part of this specific working group. But we are developing a roster of those who are willing and able to help build these from producer members to say, hey, look, I would like to understand and get input and put my 2 cents in on building the specification. But I also do a download of everything that's going on in the work groups that I'm a part of as member of the asphalt subtask group of the PMPC. I give a rundown in our technical committee meetings, as well as we do updates through our newsletter, general updates through our newsletter for anyone who wants to read about what's going on in specification development. And local cities and counties are able to get this newsletter as well, so they can understand what they could be seeing in the near future as well.
It makes a lot of sense. Okay, we're going to switch gears now.
Switching gears. All right.
All right. So my favorite part of mixing materials is that we get to learn a little bit about the people who make up the industry. So now that you are here, sitting in that chair, we get to learn about Cameron Richardson.
All right.
I've had the pleasure to know you for a few years now.
Yes.
I can tell you a funny story about our lunch that when we first met and we were introduced by an individual.
Uh-huh.
And he had asked me to look at something, and I had presented to you what I thought you guys could do. And in the back of my mind, I thought, okay, well, he's going to tell me I'm wrong, and I have to politely agree with him, but not agree with him. And the first thing you said to me was, man, I wish I would have thought of that.
Wow.
So you're a super smart guy.
Well, thank you for agreeing with you.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. No, anyone who's been around you will know you're super smart, but you also listen to others, and I think that's what probably makes you really good at your job.
I appreciate that.
As the Director of Technical Affairs and Advocacy. So really, I just want to ask you the first question about CalCIMA.
Okay.
So if CalCIMA had a theme song, what would it be?
Ooh, okay. This is a good question. CalCIMA had a theme song. Well, it is funny. Last year, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with Spotify or iTunes. They do, you know, your yearly roundup, year in review. So our communications director put out on LinkedIn, you know, our top 3, songs that describe CalCIMA. And I think, you know, the best one out of the 3 was "We Built This City." CalCIMA is unique in that we represent producers of both asphalt, aggregate, and concrete. And so if you look at anywhere in the world, you know, it's built of these items. And so I think "We Built This City" would be a great representation of what CalCIMA is. But as I think about it, I think there's another one that is a bit more personal. You know, I've been with CalCIMA just over a year now, joined May of 2024. And what I've learned about the legislative process, what I've learned about the environmental process, what I've learned about our operations partners. We have a great team of 10. We're looking at, you know, the advanced clean fleets and informing our members about all these different things. I think, and I will argue with anyone, I will die on this hill, Aladdin is top tier Disney movie, top 3, bar none, and that we can discuss that off camera. But a song from that soundtrack, wonderfully done by Robin Williams, is "You Ain't Never Had a Friend Like Me." All the things that this group does it's pretty amazing. It's pretty, you know, magical, if you will. Yes. And so I think we are a very member-driven organization. Our members give us our walking orders. They, you know, open our eyes to different things. We do provide, you know, our thoughts as, I mean, I struggle to say this, but, you know, I'm viewed as a subject matter expert in my field. We have other members of our team that hold the same stature. And so while we help our members accomplish their mission of, you know, producing more materials, you know, keeping their doors open, that's part of our mission. And so I think "You Ain't Never Had a Friend Like Me," because we do a lot of, you know, magic behind the doors, you know, to make things happen. Our operations team, you know, we have our education conference, which coincidentally is at Disneyland this year. So maybe a little bit of Latin theme in there too as well. It's probably where my brain went, how I got there. Education conference, what this team of 4 people have done and what they create to bring to our members, who we get speaker-wise, and it's pretty magical to see. And I think it brings a ton of value to our membership, hearing from legislators, hearing from government officials, hearing from innovators in the industry that can help elevate their businesses and bring new light to a lot of things that we're going to need to do as a construction materials industry moving forward. So, long-winded answer.
It makes a lot of sense. When you said Aladdin, my brain went to, you have a little cubicle and you have the power of the universe in a little tiny living space.
You got to turn that up a couple octaves because it's a little tiny living space.
All right, good deal. Oh, that's a great answer. Makes a lot of sense too. When you think about you and how you came up in industry, I'm sure there's been a lot of people who kind of helped get you where you are today.
Yes.
There's a lot of great people in this industry. Is there somebody that you'd like to spend a little more time with, or maybe somebody that you haven't met yet that you'd like to meet from industry? And what would you be doing with that person? Would you have a beer with them? Would you be playing golf, going to a coffee shop?
There is a laundry list of people I would like to meet?
I'll just help you out. You and I can have lunch after this.
Well, let me check that box off. So, no, I'm going to enjoy that lunch, definitely. But I think I would like to take it back to the beginning. I mean, like I mentioned, I've been in this industry about 21 years. I was brought into the industry by a friend that I knew, wow, I've known for probably almost 25, almost 30 years now. A gentleman by the name of Robert Contreras, works down in Southern California, and ran into him at just a friendly function, and, you know, catching up, talking about, you know, where we've been in our lives. Because I would say we were never like super close. So, you know, seeing him was like, oh, it's great to see you. You know, you do the catching up. And at that time, my wife was pregnant with our first child. And so, you know, I was kind of stressed out looking for a new gig. And he introduced me to this industry 21 years ago. You know, it was, hey, do you like math? I said, yes. Hey, do you like working with your hands? I said, yes. Went in for an interview with another gentleman by the name of Rick Primo. And 21 years later, I'm still in the industry. So they introduced me to this industry and also introduced me to the game of golf, which is a big part of our industry. So I would love to get around with those two. And, you know, I have many mentors in this space. So any one of those mentors could be a great fourth for that foursome. But yeah, those two guys I'd love to get a little bit more time with. As I moved up to Northern California, I don't get to see Robert as much. And I know Rick Primo moved out to Nevada. So it'd be nice to bring that original crew back together for a good 4 or 5 hours.
That's really great. I've met Rick Primo a few times. I've never met Robert Contreras. So hopefully, if you need somebody to fill out the foursome, I'm ready to play.
All right, I love that. I love that.
All right. Just putting some time in for the camera. Okay. So I have one more question.
Okay.
And this is a Cameron Richardson. You talked about two people. You talked about CalCIMA. Let's talk about Cameron.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about your current role or maybe previous roles and woke up and said, I can't believe this is my job?
Ooh. I think I've thought about that many, many times. I think I'll answer that question in levels if it's okay.
Please.
I think there's being quality control based for many, many years. You are focused on the process and the projects and making sure that the material is good. Then you get to drive those same projects later. And so there's a sense of ownership and pride that you get from, you know, I earlier in my career, I got an opportunity to work on the 710 down in Long Beach.
Yeah.
A lot of long hours, a lot of, you know, sweat and tears and frustration building the mix design and making sure that it was a consistent project. It was a very tight spec project. So it was, you know, very stressful. But in the end, to have that, you know, project on, you know, my belt loop of things that I've accomplished, and then when I get to drive, it's like, oh, I did this. I had a hand in this. And so throughout my career, there's probably, you know, a roster of Caltrans EA numbers that they use to reference their different projects that I could point to and say, that's mine, that's mine. I remember that one didn't go as well, but we fixed it this way. And so that's kind of a cool thing about this industry that I lean on in terms of like, wow, it's just kind of cool to have in your heart and on your mind as you move on in your career. And then I think more recently, you know, you get to, this industry will allow you to travel and see a lot of cool things and learn from a lot of great people. And so we have a lot of great conferences. I think the coolest one I've ever been to was earlier this year. You know, luckily was able to represent CalCIMA members in Maui for a couple days. Oh. So I'm not gonna lie, there's a moment, you know, and anyone who's ever been to any of the islands of Hawaii, they can take a deep breath, look out on the ocean, and say, "Wow, I am honored, I am humbled, I am just a small person in this giant world." But there's those moments where you get to just look out and say, "Wow, this is my life, and I'm proud to be a part of this industry." Meet the people I've met, learn from the people that I've learned from, and I appreciate you saying I'm a smart individual. I know I've come across so many individuals in this industry that I continually learn from every day, or every time that I come across them, I learn something new, and that's a really cool feeling.
Really good. Well, Cameron, thank you for your time. This was really amazing.
Oh, this is
it's
fun.
fun to sit here and chat with you and learn from you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm sure. I hope to see you in Maui whenever that is again.
Yes. Hope to be there again as well.
Yes. Any parting thoughts?
Well, I guess I can shameless plug for our CalCIMA's education conference at the Disneyland Grand Hotel, November 10th through 13th of 2025. And I appreciate you, Dan, for allowing me to come on your show and really wax poetic about my time in the industry and our time knowing each other.
Yes.
So this is a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. I mean, I get to sit here and talk to people like yourself, who I look up to and respect and see, and hopefully everybody who's watching Mixing Materials gets to learn a little bit about you and from you as well.
All right.
So thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right, you do the same.